Now, with that said, last night, UFC on Fox 8, you had, for a free card, I think it lived up to its price.
It really did.
It was a pretty exciting card. Even the undercards. A lot of the undercards had a lot of split decisions, which, I'm a little torn on the whole split decision. I mean, I think you'd need I don't know. It's strange. It's strange to have that human element, and you're supposed to be told to be judging the thing the same way and look for the same things. And I just don't see how you get a split decision. I mean, if you and I watch the same thing and we're supposed to be looking for the same thing, and it's
what fight are you talking about split decision?
I think 3 fights in a row on the undercard were split decisions.
Oh, on the undercards. Okay.
The Ed Herman fight was a split decision. And then the next 2 fights after that, the woman's fight was a split decision. Who was it? Eves Edwards won by split decision. I mean, I literally, just because I had it on in the background, and I'm going to tell you right now, I looked up, I watch MMA a lot like I watch ESPN for the highlights, that there just weren't that many.
Well, moving on to the main card, where you had Liz Carmouche versus Jessica Andrade. And George and I went out on a limb and said, hey, we were going to pick Jessica Andrade for the upset, which all the favorites won last night. And we were way wrong, because Liz Carmouche she proved how good she is. And we're going to be eating crow and eating,
Andrade, the thing that the bright spot out of this is Andrade's only 21. She's if she can stay, and at this point in the UFC, they have no reason to cut any females. You keep Andrade, you watch her grow. I would think in a couple of years she could come back and maybe beat Carmouche when she gets a little bit bigger and a little bit stronger, because she just got out-muscled, she just got beat on the ground, beat standing up. She got beat left and right ground. It was just, she got beat every which way to Sunday.
Right. Yeah, definitely. Absolutely. And she just, you saw Carmouche's experience, and, at the end of the day, you realize how good Liz Carmouche is. I mean, obviously she fell short when she fought Ronda Rousey, but when you put her in the mix with everybody else in that women's bantamweight class, she's just a front runner without a doubt.
Top 3,
she proved that last night. Huh?
She's top 3, top 4, easy.
Oh, absolutely.
Right now. And now in a year or two, Now here's let me ask you this, Kevin. In the history of The Ultimate Fighter, has the coach ever on the show coached their own weight class?
I believe so.
Was it Tito? I think Tito Ortiz.
I would think it was Tito Ortiz. That's what I was saying, as light heavies.
Yeah, because I don't know if you've noticed, but it doesn't happen often. And the reason I bring that is because they were running the promos. They're showing you the Ronda Rousey and what's her name?
Right, and Misha Tate. And they're going to be training women they could possibly be competing against one day, and I found that interesting. Yeah, and I thought I remember that one time with the middleweights as well. I thought was Matt what's his name? Country boy that was the
Matt Hughes?
Welterweight champ. Matt Hughes. Was he on the show one time?
Yeah, dude. Now, see, this is when we ask questions like this, don't tell us we don't do our homework. This is your chance as the fan to chime in and help us out.
Well, the problem is that a lot of people don't know the answers either, and then they become Google smart, and they're like, oh, you guys don't know shit about MMA. And I'm like, we don't know shit about MMA, and you're fucking Google smart, so shut the fuck up. So,
okay, so in other words, what Kevin and I are getting at is how many other episodes of The Ultimate Fighter have the coaches coached their own weight class? So help us out with that. I just found it interesting, and I was trying to get Kevin's thought on that before we got all pissy.
Let's move on to some things that I was excited to see, and that was Robbie Lawler fight. And you guys probably watched.
I think you busted a nut through the phone on my ear when we were talking about this.
I do, man, because I said it, when we did our video, prior to the event about Robbie Lawler, and I asked you how many knockouts how many wins he had by knockout, and it was 17, and he added to that the other night.
Yeah.
He just comes to fight.
Yes.
And there's thing, it's interesting because we did the Floyd Mayweather,
and you gave a very elegant response. And that response, the response you gave to that guy's comment is the reason why I'm not a huge fan of boxing and I lean more toward MMA. But then we'll also talk about the Rory McDonald fight and how it got sandwiched between two four guys who were looking to fight, and then Rory McDonald and Jake Ellenberger who looked like they were ready to dance. And that's the difference. Kevin, Kevin said, Robbie Lawler's coming to fight. He's coming to end the fight at the beginning of round 1 to the end of round 3 or the end of round 5. He's constantly looking to end the fight.
In the fight. And people who don't see that or don't get that, and the guy was like, to the boxing video, his response to me was like, how do you mean it isn't a fight and that people don't engage? I'm like, you can dance, you can use your skill set to stay away from a guy and not try to put a guy away and just outpoint him. When everybody gravitated to a young Mike Tyson, because the moment fucking Mike Tyson stepped in, that 19-year-old kid, he's like, I'm going to fucking knock you out. I'm going to attack you, and you better be ready for it. You're fighting a tiger. Like this, and everybody knew that, and everybody started getting scared. A lot of his thing was that people are like, this fucking kid's going to try to kill me, you know? And all of a sudden he built up this like invincible thing. Robbie Lawler has that type of mentality. Now, he's been submitted. He's had his losses. He's even been TKO'd before. But the thing about Robbie Lawler I've always liked is that guy had so much potential. And you saw it last night. You see how much potential. Now that he's with American Top Team, he was throwing kicks. And he's like, I'm going to fucking keep coming forward and I'm going to try to put you to sleep. I'm going to load up. And eventually he did it. And that's the kind of fighter I like. And I mean, that doesn't take away from the other fighters. I just like guys that come in there and think, you know what? I'm getting paid to fight. I'm going to try to end this fight and make it exciting. Well,
Robbie Lawler's opponent was overmatched from the beginning. He was a step slower. He had subpar defense. His striking was not crisp. He gave out there and he fought violently and he tried hard, but he ended up getting kicked upside his head and was snoring. I mean, it was It was up there with the Melvin. The other vicious knockout of the night came when Melvin Gillard absolutely crushed Mac Danzig.
Right. Yes. I mean, yeah, absolutely. I just think, and one of the things, another thing, a lot of people are like, why is he on Robbie Lawler, nuts. I think the guy's
he's an exciting fighter.
Yeah, he's an exciting fighter, and I think he's never used his full potential, and I think we're starting to see that out. Rogan said it, last night, and the fact that he is down at welterweights, and you know what? Doing all this shit, I didn't even realize that. Like, I just thought it was a middleweight fight. I never paid attention that it was a welterweight fight, which is probably because I don't know shit about MMA. But
exactly. I mean, if you knew more about MMA, you'd know he was at welter. And I would love to see him. Somebody commented on Twitter last night, Rory McDonald versus Robbie Lawler, and I'd love to see it. Now, I don't think Lawler could win that fight because, I guess this is a good segue into the next one, but Rory McDonald is the next coming of GSP, and I don't understand why anyone doesn't see that. And to me, he's not an exciting fighter because what he did last night, and he made a comment, he goes, I was looking to finish, win. When you never made an attempt to finish that fight. You would hit back up and be elusive. And everyone's like, well, Jake Ellenberger didn't engage. Every time Jake Ellenberger tried to engage, Rory McDonald backed up. Rory McDonald used his reach, his speed, his quickness, and his technical ability to the best of his advantage, and he won the fight on points. He didn't win that shit on anything else. He did. He outpointed. And I won't take away McDonald's skill set because he's phenomenal. He has an incredible jab. He has an incredible jab. And that's great. And so does GSP.
I think what people, yes, GSP has one. That is not, Rory, you guys have to understand, we're not saying that Rory McDonald's not a great fighter. He's a great fighter. We acknowledged that before the event. It's the way he fights, and he fights to win, and that's what you're trying to do because you're trying to get paid and you're trying to get a shot at the title and stuff like that. But I would like to see him fight GSP because they're very similar. I just think GSP would take him to the ground at wrestling. You saw Ellenberger, shoot in and do that. And I thought to myself, the one mistake that Jake Ellenberger did was he tried to load up and try to get that one punch to knock him out. I think his camp should have focused on him trying to just take him down. After the first round, when you saw he wasn't able to get inside and Rory was, establishing his jab, why not shoot in and take him down? I think if he had fought, that one judge had him winning round 3, obviously. I think if he had taken him down a couple times in round 2 or either in round 1, he would have won the fight.
And see,
that would have proved to everybody that,
Kevin said the same thing to me last night on the phone. But the one thing that was interesting, because in the prelims, you had one fighter take down another fighter, but not do any damage, and he had more takedowns. But he still ended up losing the fight, which in my opinion should be the way it should go. If I take you down and I don't do anything, or if I don't at least get you if I don't land any shots, and if I don't try to pull off a submission, I should that takedown was for nothing.
Right. No, I follow you. Yeah, absolutely. And, you could see that, when Ellenberger did take him down, he established his guard really well, and Ellenberger wasn't able to do a lot, and time was running out and stuff like this. But the bottom line is that if Ellenberger had taken him down, this is all hearsay. I mean, if he had taken him down in the earlier rounds and been able to control him on the ground, you would have had to give him the round to him, because McDonald wasn't doing anything spectacular. He was
that first round was so anticlimactic with all the shit talking that these two monkeys did to come out and pull off a first 5 minutes like that. That was horrible, and that's on both of their fault. I mean, I understand shit talking is not in Rory McDonald's thing, but to sit there and say that you're going to KO this guy and you're going to knock him out, dude, you didn't even come close.
No, he didn't, and I think one of the things people are like, oh, Ellenberger's engaged. Well, it's hard to. You've got to really get inside on a guy when it's that much difference, Right.
And when a guy's got his fucking transmission stuck in reverse.
Yeah. I will say this thing about Rory McDonald, if he was ever to face Robbie Lawler. He could take Robbie Lawler down and probably submit him, because that's where Robbie Lawler does have a weakness sometimes. He's been submitted and everything else. He could try to sit there and hit him with that stiff jab, but the difference about Robbie Lawler and Jake Ellenberger is that Robbie Lawler will engage with you. Like, if you're throwing that stiff jab, you better get that jab back quick, because he is going to counter the fuck out of that. And he is a much taller man, a bigger stature. He will get in there, and he's so big, he fights at middle all the time. So, I mean, you could see it might be a little bit of problem on the ground for McDonald, if he had a little bit of problem with Ellenberger. So that could be a very interesting matchup.
Well, it's going to be interesting, because they're sitting there saying the winner of this is going to face the Hendricks GSP. But let's be honest, McDonald is not going to fight GSP.
So they're saying the winner. So they've already said that McDonald's going to fight Lawler.
They said, well, the thing was, it put him in line to get a title shot. I mean, I mean, if it's GSP, I'm sure he's not going to fight him, because they fight out of the same gym. And you want to talk about a god awful boring fight? Holy crap!
Yeah, I don't want to see that shit. I think anybody who's followed Robbie Lawler in his career, it was excited to see him fight last night. I noticed that in Joe Rogan, because it wasn't that he got the job done, because you've seen Robbie Lawler get the job done. He's got heart, he's got power. But the thing is that his kicks and all the other dimensions of his MMA game look so great, so crisp, and I'd never seen that in him. So it was surprising to me, and you're thinking, okay, he looks good at welterweight, and he hasn't fought at this weight, at least in a while. He could be scary as a fucking welterweight. Right. Now, him fighting Johnny Hendricks would be good.
Yeah, that would be a very short match.
Right. You know what I'm saying? It would be a great match. Anyway, let's go on to the main event. That was Mighty Mouse Demetrious Johnson versus John Moraga. And there was people out there, and I'm gonna go. I know you're gonna say this, George. I'm gonna just cut you off, because there were people out there. There's one person in particular that's like, you guys don't know John Moraga? No, we don't, motherfucker. We don't know who he is. And you know what? He was the first person to say, no one knows who I am in the MMA world. He said that in his fucking interview. The guy was even saying no one knows me. So, I mean,
yeah, they cut a promo. The UFC cut a promo about a guy they put in the championship match, and the first words out of his mouth, a lot of people don't know who I am, but after Saturday night, they will.
Right. So
maybe.
Yeah. Right. The guy has fought 2 fights in the UFC. Both of them were not televised.
That were untelevised. So we're supposed to know about a guy we've never had access to watch fight? What am I supposed to do? Ride in this guy's car and wait for him to fight? Like, who's really heard of this dude?
Yeah. I will say this. I hadn't heard of him, and at the end of the night, I was like, I was wrong, because I thought it was going to be 50-45, which it was almost. If Demetrious Johnson hadn't submitted him with that arm bar with, like a minute left, it would have been 50-45. But, I will say this about Demetrious Johnson. He is slowly becoming one of the best pound for pound fighters. He's good as shit. I watched that fight. He has such good stamina. He's so fucking quick. He shoots in so good. He's just good. He's just good all around. And his weight,
his double leg might surpass GSP's, because last night he set that boy up time and time again. And my last tweet of the night, or one of the last ones, was, that's what a champion should do. Demetrious Johnson had that fight hands down. He could have literally done cartwheels the whole entire 5th round and still won. But instead, he goes out there, puts himself in harm's way. And he didn't have to do any of that. He never had to take it to the mat. He didn't even have to get engaged. He didn't even have to stand in front of the kid and let him throw a punch. Instead, he takes him down. His corner goes. Every time he goes to defend the Kimura, he leaves himself open for an armbar. And what does DJ do? Puts him in an armbar and ends it. That's what champions should do.
That's what champions should do. George and I definitely didn't see that coming. We didn't think that. So we apologize to GJ Mighty Mouse for definitely thinking he couldn't do. Because I tell you what, he proved us wrong because he went out there and finished the fight when he had no reason to finish. And I'm glad he proved us wrong.
I'm excited when guys do things out of the ordinary. Because the other thing, and like I've said 3 weeks in a row, these fighters are very predictable because you don't change when something's working for you. Very seldom do they. And I did not expect DJ to come out and try to win that, and I'm glad he did. I'm glad he finished the fight. I want more people to try to finish fights, even though they have the fight in the bag. Rory McDonald, you had the fight in the bag after the first 2 rounds. You didn't go in for the kill in the third. You were content with jabbing, staying away, and pointing your way to a victory. Again, there's nothing wrong with that. But it's not exciting. It's not what Dana's looking for. It's not what MMA fans are looking for, hardcore, new, or old school. I mean, it's not fun to watch. It's really not. Point fighting, take that shit to the Olympics and go into judo or some bullshit.
Yeah, it was boring, man. I mean, it's, when you see that points and fights that don't, people come to see knockouts, and like, I'll go back to it again, and people are like, shut the fuck up, Kevin. But it was. Tyson was exciting because of how he fought. People like to see action.
Why do people go to NASCAR?
Yeah, to see car crashes. You know what I mean? It's like, why does Chris Levin still have a job? Yeah, does he get knocked out? But he knocks some motherfuckers out at the same time. People like seeing that.
Why do people watch the NFL? For 2 things. Big plays and big hits. That's it.
Right.
No one's going to sit there on Monday and talk about the 3rd down and 4 play where the guy ran for 3 or 6 yards. No one's going to talk about that. No one's going to talk about a 2-yard carry or a 4-yard pass. They're going to talk about a 50-yard bomb, punt return, kick return, and somebody getting knocked the fuck out.
Yep. That's what people tune into. Why do you think people love hockey? Imagine right now, I want everybody who's a hockey fan if they took the fighting out of hockey. Now, it's great. It's great. I mean, obviously you still have your hockey, your hockey fans, obviously. I'm not saying it would kill the sport, but people would be pissed about that.
Well, I think what they'd be more pissed about is if they went to more of a European style where they don't do a lot of checking. Where at least here in America, they go for the big hits. If you if you watch international hockey, when the Olympics and the World Games, they don't do. It's not very physical. It's very finesse. It's very smooth. Just like the European basketball game. The European basketball game is not like the American basketball game. And even the American basketball game is starting to get less physical, but it's not nearly as bad as the European version.
Right. Everybody needs to watch a good rugby match every once in a while.
Right. But the thing that amazes me is if you watch these Europeans play their version of football soccer, dude, they're fucking brutal. I mean, I understand they take some dives, but watching Messi dribble down the center of the pitch with a guy on his left and a guy on his right just fucking hounding him, and I'm like, dude, that's a foul in every other sport.
It's a foul. And I mean, that guy's getting bounced around like a pinball, and, all 5'5" of him. He's a little guy.
Yeah, who doesn't like to pay taxes.
Yeah. Oh, good point. Now, let's move on to